My name is Daniel Malpica. I'm the Mexican Finnish author, designer and multimedia artist. And my main practice is focused on the intersection between literary arts, poetry, and visual aesthetics as well. So a big part of my work is a hybrid between multimedia practices and literature, and how narratives can be expanded into different disciplines, basically. I don't necessarily come, my work doesn't necessarily come from the academic side as well. But I think that my practice can be considered artistic research in the sense that it deals with critical communities. During the time that I have been living in Helsinki, I have had the opportunity to not only mix disciplines but also tackle concrete issues that are case specific, which involves communities and how to visualize and deals with issues of social justice and inclusion, segregation, and so on. So the ability to use literary practices, poetry, design, and multimedia, alongside with professional community of authors and artists together, has given me the opportunity to approach research in a different, from a different angle, and even crossing the boundaries towards the academia. For example, I have been dealing with researchers from doctoral studies in different universities in Finland. This intersection between these the students and then like artists on the field has given the possibility to reach audiences, reach authors, and tackle the specific issues of how to make the society more inclusive. If we think about artistic research in the same way that we think about arts, for example, is that the artistic research doesn't necessarily respond to the needness of the market. So in that sense, like the perception of time and the way in which the processes happen are different. You know, sometimes there are specific circumstances in which you cannot accelerate the processes. You need to go on detail, dealing with the specific elements in order to tackle factors, and those factors involve most of the time the connection with peoples and communities, and therefore very often there is no trace path in order to reach these elements. So I believe that the artistic research practices, it's a way to perceive time management in a different way. You need more time in a different rhythm in order to engage with all these elements and make a valuable result or impact regarding the communities that you deal with. For the last decade, I have been working with different profiles of authors, writers, and researchers as well, mainly in Finland. And some of those projects have involved artistic research as such. I have collaborated with researchers from Sibelius Academy in different specific projects regarding sound, and my input has been the conceptualization of those research visually, and some of the things that I have learned is that artists and authors on the field can have a valuable impact in academic research as well, and the ability to make the studies more flexible and the research flexible, not in the sense of the scientific method that you use to tackle the issues, but in the sense of how we respect the input of authors, artists into the research itself, has been very relevant in my career. Now, from my side, the projects that I have been involved often tries to gather together professional artists, writers, designers, and invite them to collaborate in order to not only promote the cycle of cultural production, but also to visualize their works in a way in which otherwise hasn't been possible. For example, when it comes to authors, for several years with a group of writers, we produce a multimedia festival of literature that gathers authors living in the Nordic region, in the Baltics as well, and the projects often translate them into the Nordic languages, and they were able to present their work in a multimedia setup with projections behind, with musicians, and those specific projects not only give a platform for these authors, which most of them were already professional authors, but also give the possibility to get access to, for example, literary translation in a manner that otherwise couldn't have been possible. It's kind of a chain of events that shows also the problematics about like multilingualism in literature in the Nordic region, accessibility, privileges, you know. So basically, I believe that there is artistic research involved in my practice, in the sense that it's not only a production; it involves dealing with many factors and many layers of the society, institutional, private people, artists, academics, in order to join together and create something that has a proper impact in the society. Then later on, I also have made my own projects of multimedia, like in which I use narratives and translate those narratives through the view of artistic researchers as well. Like in the case of the doctoral studies of music technology, I created the script and the literature using translation, and we with the help of a researcher from Civilis Academy, we basically developed 3 systems of speech synthesis. Later on, like this colleague wrote his thesis on the matter of case specificity and how to develop productions according to the specific needs of not only the physical setup but the conditions of the context. I mean, it could be geopolitical, it could be like in terms of narrative, it could be in terms of communities as well. So yeah, and then later on, of course, I have been working also as an editor, and some of these projects are also translated into physical books, like kind of ambitious projects that create a multilingual universe in a manner that respects the individual and professional aspects of each people compiling these books, and that gives me to the idea, or to the conclusion that a case study in my practice is also considered artistic research, because there are many elements of methodology, of analysis, of developing strategies to deal, and then building connections among professionals. I was a member of the board of the Finnish PEN for 2 years, and one of the projects that I developed with my colleagues in the organization was a compilation of multilingual literature in Finland. So the book is called Sulava. Sulava is a word in Finnish that refers to melting or blending. And during the book process, of course, we compile the authors, we translate them with literary translators into multiple languages, plus Finnish and English in all the cases. And the final result was 22 authors compiled in the book. Some of them originally from Finland, writing in Finnish, some of them writing in Swedish, Burmese, Arabic, Spanish, Farsi, and many other languages, Russian and so on. And for the process of the book, I was the editor, but also I was the editorial designer. So I had the ability to conceptualize the book visually. For that, what I did is that I compiled. I was fixated in terms of Sulava, and then I compiled flowers around the country. So I went to very up north in Finland, and compiled some flowers to the archipelago, Turun archipelago, and then in Helsinki. And at the end, I created a series of kind of flower arrangements, blocks of flower arrangements with water. For that, I collaborated with my wife. So we created these blocks of flowers that we froze, and we used some different kind of acrylics also to create textures. And then after we froze these bricks, we basically took them out, and then we let them to defrost by themselves, and then we use macro lens with my camera, and we photograph these processes of melting and blending, which is very close to the idea of Finland as a nation that blends into the summer and flourishes again. So the result was a very beautiful book that has there are 32 photographs of melting flowers that ended up being pretty abstract. So that's the beauty of it, because we didn't want to make it corny or cheesy in a way. No? And each author was assigned one of the pictures among their bio description and their photograph, and then you are able to read their poetry or narrative, short stories, depending on the case. And also during that process of developing the book, there are 4 articles. One of them is the introduction made by the president the president at that time of the Finnish PEN. The second was we invited a researcher on literature and multilingualism to talk about linguistic diversity in literature in Finland, and then the idea of endangered languages, and also the myths around the endangeredness of a language as Finnish in the Nordics, right? And then the last one was the secretary of the Finnish PEN. She made an article also about the languages used and spoken in Finland, and then a description of each individual language. And at the end of the book, there's an article that I wrote that tackles the issue of multilingualism as part of the literary corpus of Finnish literature, and among other things, the perception of design as a literary discipline. From the book Manuke Libre, I'm gonna be reading one of the poems in Spanish. The book is a collaboration, has been developed in a collaboration with a Mexican photographer, Jaime Culebro. He's a photographer that lives in Finland, and back in 2017 we made a travel to Japan. The result was a series of photographs and poetry that we decided to blend together in this book. So this is how it goes, the poem. Manuke Libre. Membrana marrón sobre porcelana vieja. Un papiro. Alguien dejó un poema al interior del mingitorio. Gratash. Puto, 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 puto. Las rodillas de Manuke florean en temporada de cerezo. Medio limón para tus raspones, Sakura.